Hey yogis, welcome to your first module where we are going to be reading Sutra 1.1 and Sutra 1.2 from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I hope you are off to a great semester. Before we begin, I just want to apologize for the mess back here and these very bare, kind of ugly walls. I had to move offices very recently and I haven't had a chance to do anything. So I have nothing in the walls. My books are a mess. I swear I'm not always this disorganized and boring looking behind here. But anyways, it doesn't matter what the background looks like. We have a lot to learn. So I want to briefly just talk to you about the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, specifically Sutra 1.1 and Sutra 1.2. So let's just go ahead and get started in Sutra 1.1. So Sutra 1.1, you can repeat after me. Atta Yoga Nushasanam. Atta Yoga Nushasanam. If you were in my PED 101 class, you know Atta Yoga Nushasanam. And now that's going to be stuck in your head all day. So Atta Yoga Nushasanam means now the exposition of yoga is being made. In other words, it means now the study of yoga begins. And what's most important here is that first word atta, A-T-H-A. It's not atha, it's atta. So atta means now. And this is really important because by saying now, that makes the teachings of yoga a living study. It's not yesterday, it's not a week ago, it's not next week or next year, it's now. So it means that we study yoga now. And I'm going to be saying this over and over again, but that's the significance of it. We study yoga now, and we study yoga now. And now we study yoga, and now we study yoga, and now we study yoga. So the sense of being in now, atta, is everlasting. So once we open that book and we're like, Atta Yoga Anushasanam, now I study yoga, we are always studying yoga, hopefully, if we're practicing our yoga. So Atta Yoga Anushasanam essentially means that now we study yoga. But that also means a lot of other things are coming because now we're studying something new. So that means we have to have some sense of what yoga means. And we talked about this a little bit in Costa Rica. Yoga is not just physical postures, asana. It's an 8-step path to some sense of enlightenment, hopefully total bliss, where we run the even road. So asana, what we did in Costa Rica, it's one part of the path, but yoga is actually about controlling the mind. And the reason we have the asana practice is so we can get the energy out of the body so we can be still enough to calm the mind. So Atta Yoga Nushasanam really means now we're studying all the ways in which we can find some sense of equanimity and stillness within the mind. And there's a lot of ways that this can happen. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is divided into 4 sections. Most yogis currently study section 1 and 2. Sections 3 and 4 can get like out there, like more out there than maybe most of us in the West are prepared for. So we'll really only be looking through books 1 and 2. So Atta Yoga Nushasanam. Now the study of yoga begins. Now we learn how to walk the even road. Now we learn how to control the mind. Now we know how to find stillness. Now we learn all the ways to achieve what the yogi calls bliss. So Atta Yoga Nushasanam, now we study yoga. And yoga means union, bringing the mind, the body, and the soul together. And the yogi says to do that, we have to stop the fluctuations of the mind. And that's what brings us into Sutra 1.2. Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha. You can repeat after me. Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And again, if you're in my PED 101, Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Probably a little bit familiar. So Sutra 1.2, Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha, means the restraint of the mind stuff is yoga. The yogi's goal is to control the fluctuations of the mind. And you might think to yourself for a minute, like, I don't have fluctuations in the mind. We all have fluctuations of the mind. The mind has to think and it has to fluctuate. It's a survival mechanism. It tells us lots of stories. If we burn our hand on the stove, the next time we turn the stove on, our mind tells us a little story about how hot that is and how much our hand hurt. Or we hear stories of other people say, getting eaten by a crocodile in Costa Rica. And then our mind tells us all of these stories about being afraid of crocodiles. I'm just speaking from personal experience here. The crocodile thing like traumatized me for life here. Right? So it's a survival mechanism. Our brains are thinking and telling us stories all the time to keep us safe. But the brain doesn't always know what's best, right? Maybe. That's what the yogi believes. The yogi says the brain doesn't always know what's best. Sometimes it tells us a lot of stories that aren't true. So the yogi is then trying to control the fluctuations of the mind, to not worry about the past, to not worry about the future, but to notice what is happening exactly in this moment. So yoga chitta vritti nirodha, the restraint of the mind stuff is yoga. When I learned this sutra, this was like a mind-blowing event for me to learn that A, I control my thoughts, and B, I can change them. And C, they do not define me. That was like a revolutionary thing for me. For some people, like Aaron, for example, his mom raised him from day one, control your inner dialogue. I think he even brought that up at breakfast one morning at Room to Board. Control your inner dialogue. That we can change the way we think. So if a negative thought comes into our minds, we can then replace it with the positive one. Or if our minds start to tell us these stories about how we're not good enough, or we'll never be able to do that, or I'm so nervous, we can just say, no, actually, I'm not. Right? It sounds kind of simple, but it's not that simple. And I know that from personal experience. The control of the mind stuff for me can be very complicated, especially since I'm an academic and I like to be up in the head. But the yogi believes that we can control our minds. And when the mind is 100% controlled, we have achieved yoga. A lot of us are working to get there. That might take a few lifetimes if that's what you believe to get to that place. But according to the teachings of yoga, when we have learned to perfectly control the mind, to not be distracted by the stories, the thoughts, the words, the images that pop up in our heads, when we can let them go and not bring them back in, we have achieved yoga. So, Sutra 1.1, Atta Yoga Nushasanam. Now the study of yoga begins. You study yoga now, and then you study yoga now, and you study yoga now. So it's a never-ending study. And then Sutra 1.2, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the restraint of the mind stuff is yoga. So this is what we're working with today. I have a discussion board open for you guys to start talking about these things. I'm not so much concerned that you get a full grasp of these concepts right now, right? These things are esoteric. They're kind of out there. And if you've never heard it before, you might be like, this lady is crazy, which is like kind of sort of true. But these are the teachings of yoga, right? They have nothing to do with my personal craziness. So even if you feel like, man, these things are out there, this is about planting the seed for you just to begin thinking like, okay, now I'm in the moment. 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 Atta, I'm in the moment. Change my thoughts. I'm not defined by my thoughts. So to back it up just a second, because I'm like getting wrapped up. You know how excited I can get. Sutra 1.1 and 1.2, they work together. Now I'm practicing yoga. If you are practicing yoga, you are not distracted by the mind. Mind starts to fluctuate. Now I'm practicing yoga. Then the fluctuations of the mind come back. Now I'm practicing yoga. Fluctuations of the mind come back. Now I'm practicing yoga. So it's an eternal study. It's an eternal practice of coming back to the present moment of Atta. So that's all I have for you for now. I don't want to give you too much because really what's important is that in the yoga teachings, we plant these seeds and then work with them. So I hope that during your discussions, you get some good ideas and you find some ways to think about this in your regular life. But more importantly than that, I hope that you start to see this play out maybe in the coming week, in the coming month, in the coming year, in the next lifetime, whenever it arises. Just like I said in the beginning of the semester in Costa Rica, it's not that I don't want you to learn things, but that which just goes like whoosh, over your head, according to the yogi, means you don't need it right now, but it's there. It's already been planted. The seed is there. So understand it as best as you can in your life right now and to complete the assignments right now, but then be a witness to the experience and see how these things can begin to play out in your life later on. I'm excited to hear about it. I hope you have a great first week of classes. Too bad we're not back in Costa Rica. Could really, just lay in the sun, get in the pool, but we've got work to do. Have a great day. Bye, yogis.